When I was in boot camp in the U.S. Navy, we were told by a drill instructor, for the next 3 minutes, you're going to have to do the most difficult thing you've ever done in your life. For the next 3 minutes, you're not going to scratch, wiggle, or move. So tonight, we're going to use some of the same principle for 1 hour. Don't take your phone out. Just leave it off for 1 hour. I know that's asking a lot, but our rules are if you interrupt when somebody's talking, you cut that person's life. If you turn around and walk away, you're telling that person you're worthless, there's nothing I want to hear. And so that's what happens, they disappear to the phone. So for that reason, I'm just asking, if you have to if you have some emergency or very important call you're expecting, and it comes through, just go outside. Just signal to whoever's calling, whatever you're going on. So that's as simple as that. De island is gaan, de Jocelyn is gaan, het laatste is langer voor langer jaren. Kat akas diu kwala Tatlana hartai uri agent. Kaun sama inotik ya on. Heidelberg's Lord agent. Dalanga ya kutama. Dalanga kilawa ya. My brothers, my sisters, I'm very happy to talk to you, see you. I'm of the northern Haida, East Haida. Otherwise, we just say I'm Haida. I'm of the eagle crest of the half eagle, half of Moibi Haida population. I'm of the Haida two-headed eagle, the Tatlana people, and I am called Kawan Sangam, and I'm from the village of Heidelberg. Talangaya Kutama, I want to say hard words to you. Talanga Kila Tauya. To paraphrase that is, I'm so happy that you're here that my tongue doesn't have the words to express it that high. So what I want each of you to do, and if you speak another language, use your own language. Because if we can hear what another language sounds like, then we get a chance to learn a little bit more about each other. So in Haida language, the sentence structured most important word is the first word in a sentence. So when I say Kalan Sama, Inudikyaam, Kalan saw this person is called. So I would say Kalan Sama Inudikyaam. So we'll go around and each of you introduce yourself with your name and then Hinu Di Kya'an. So we can start back there. Just say no name. Anyway, we can wait. So,
Kelly Hinu Di
Kya'an. Yeah. Yeah, there's supposed to be a mark here that says that we hold sort of separated.
Vanessa Hinu Di Kia Ong.
Kunjad Hinu Di Kia Ong.
How do you say in your language?
I don't even know.
Okay. Haida's close enough. Just your name? Your name and Hinu Di Kya'an.
My name is Alice.
Hinu
Di
Kya'an.
Kya'an.
Is your name Bashful? Okay. Next time.
It's just gonna grab this suitcase here first. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, there's a $10 entry fee and $20 to leave.
Like, sorry. Sorry.
No, it's a language class.
Okay, I saw drums.
Okay. So,
Sales gonna go and let me the woman name.
and what is your name?
Wendy is my English name.
I couldn't hear, I can't hear her. When?
Wendy is my English name.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. But I know ihlgiigaa Mohawk a bit.
Okay.
My other language.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
Haida Language
Yeah, yeah.
Roger, Hinu, D,
Kya, kya, See, the A is pronounced like the A at the skew in sun. Kya, kya, The W is like the double O's in moon, ooh, in, ooh. The I is like the I in fin. And the two I's here are like the EA in bean. So D, oh, like please. So,
ihlgiigaa, ihlgiigaa.
Signal ihlgiigaa. ihlgiigaa.
hey, that's good. That's all right.
J Hinu D Kya
Yeah.
Leah Hinudi
Now that we know who everybody is, we can start picking on people now. So anyway, this is what we're here to talk about tonight. See this word right here? The double A is pronounced like A in father. So that's all. Just like A-L-L, all. All is a paddle or an oar. When you say A-A-Y on it, all I, it means the paddle. That's a specific one. All I. All I. And then this one here is what makes us a linguistic isolate, is pronounce that X with a line under it. Like you got a fish on it. All I. And then this X is ya, ya, ya. So we just push it, ya, ya. All I get, ya. So this is the paddle under dancing. So it doesn't follow, English is kind of mixed up.
Yeah.
So the first word here is always the important part. So this is dancing under the paddle. And just so that some of you are here maybe for the first time, but what we've done with this one here, this is a ceremony that was it's really, some people say it was for honoring women, but that's not it. Because what it is in our history, it says the first human was female, molded from earth, tears of sadness and tears of gladness. And so when that first one was molded, it was perfect, it was female, so the breath of life was put into it to swig. The only problem is nothing has only one side. So it is separated into two parts, and the second part is the male. The only requirement for being human is to be born of a woman. So when a woman gives birth to that child, the first sound coming from that child signals it's now in harmony with the universe. And so all of our culture is focused on that part of our lives. The house pole in front of the house has a doorway through it that represents the woman's privates, because that's where all life comes out. Life is to be lived out here, not inside the house. And when that pole is commissioned by the person who owns the house, the man who owns the house, actually his wife's family paid for it, but they made it for him. And he has his crest at the top, and then his uncle that he inherited from, and then so it's his lineage, till you get to the bottom figure, and that's the crest of his wife. So when that pole is completed, they dig a hole, and they stand it up. And once it's standing up, it's called Gya'am. Gya'am. That means your history is standing straight up. That woman's feet's in the water, her body's in the land, her upper torso's in the air. So it's saying that that female energy ties together water, earth, and sky. And her husband's family is all balanced on her shoulders. Should she lose her balance, it all falls. So not only does that female energy tie together water, earth, and sky, but the balance of the cosmos is entirely dependent upon the strength and stability of that female energy. And so when we know that, we say, thank you for making me human, born of a woman. Now it's complete. So that's the whole basis of our culture, and that's what this ceremony is about. It's really just to get to some of the, we'll get to some of the details later, but what it is, when the ceremony begins, the women are in the other room. And she hadn't been born yet. So when we call her to come out and dance, let's come out into life. We ask, what is she bringing with her? Anger, hate, fear, anxiety? No. She's the very, very first woman. She doesn't have any of that baggage. She comes out, and she's the one that's carrying the seeds of her humanity. She's carrying the seeds of the future. She's carrying the seeds of her survival. And so this is a very special vessel, a very special person. So when she comes out to dance, she's aware that she represents all women everywhere, not just her. This isn't about her, but it's all about her. So when she steps through that room, through that doorway, there's a man waiting with an Allah title. And the men are lined up, and they're drumming and they're singing this coming in song. It's a peace song. And so she's dancing and he's dancing behind her. She's coming in, and then one of the drummers, singers moves over alongside her. And it said he mirrors her movements, because one, I'll always protect you, I'll always provide for you, and I'll always walk alongside you. And then as they come into the room, the leader will stop, will tell the two men, who's the one? That's enough. And so they turn, they go back. Hugwa, you keep dancing until you find your own special place. You're the only one that knows where it is. So you dance until you get to that spot and you stop. Then we call the next one. And again, she's the first woman. And each one of these men, he's the first man. And so he is getting, we'll say, his marching orders. He represents all men. And this is our responsibility, to protect, provide, walk alongside, and never interfere in your search for your own special place. So each man has to carry that inside them. That's who that person is at that moment. And that's who that woman is at that moment. And so when we finally get everybody into the room, I'm kind of speeding it up a little bit. If there are any children in the room, we'll bring them out, because the women will form a circle facing inward. The children will be in the center, and then the old ones will come and there'll be a circle around. The old men will be around. They won't be on the outside, but they'll face inward and just women. Then the men who are the singers and others will be the outer ring, and they're facing outward because they're the protectors. If you ever look at, well, up in Alaska they have muskox, and when there's a threat, that's what they do. They all circle, and all the males are facing outward, and the females are protecting the young ones and the old ones. So that's what we are. We're supposed to be doing this way. And so there's no bias, gender bias, we'll put it that way. Some, I think maybe even Mohawks might say that the man is the fire keeper. He's the one that keeps the fire burning. That's where the fire represents unity. That's the female energy, which is to unify, unifies everything. Fire unifies. And the man has to protect them. So he's the fire keeper. Woman's the water carrier. When she's carrying that unborn child, it's in a vessel of water. And then that child is born. So when we look at the world from that point of view, nobody is superior, nobody is inferior. Each of us has a function and a role. And a function and role is to make sure that the society survives. But for the society to survive, the individual has to survive. And for the individual to survive, we always have to treat each other in such a way that we avoid causing each other any discomfort. And this just means that we don't talk about people. I remember hearing my grandmother telling some of the young ladies one time, because they happen to be the ones we're talking about somebody. And Nana told them, don't ever do that. Don't do that, you're going to make yourselves ugly. Your children are going to be ugly. She means inside, because you're talking like that about family. And then as boys, we do something, they'd say, if your mother knew you were doing that, she'd cry. Your grandmother would be real hurt. Your uncle would be ashamed. And they treated us very nice, the way kids should be treated. And so we wanted to do everything to please them. And so those things meant a great deal to us. I didn't want to shame my uncle. I didn't want to make my mother cry or my grandmother to be hurt by what I'm doing. So again, we learn those behaviors and how we treat each other. And so that's what this ceremony really is. So it's not honoring women, it's honoring humanity. The only people who participate in here are called Haidas, humans. We're all humans. So it isn't, we don't talk about race because race implies a contest to be number one. But we're more like the fingers of one hand, all different, but all connected to the same heart. I spent a few years up in the Arctic and subarctic, and a lot of times you wear gloves, your fingers will freeze. But if you wear mittens, they probably won't, because they're all sharing the heat, helping each other. So that's why we have to look at ourselves. We're like a beehive. They're all humming the same tune, but with a different voice. Everything is focused on making sure everything is taken care of. And if you get a wasp in there, a hornet, they drive them out because they want to keep that in there. So we've selected the number 13. 13 is how many months we have in a year. There are 28 days, and 13 times 28 is 364. So that 364 days means there's one extra day. And that one extra day is when ihlgiigaa. It's been translated to mean slave, but this is a person with no family, no family, can receive a starborn spouse, starborn wife. So in this ceremony, we'll have one, I think, Shanika, was, you were the one who was the star child, right? In this, when we did it, because you had those shoes on that were sparkly, so you were our star child. Yeah, so she was the star child, she came to take part in the ceremony. Leah was part of it. Is anybody else here? Sandra. Yeah, you were part of it, Sandra and Leah and Shanika. Well, Kelly was there too.
Was this, it was just like a practice run for it? Is that what you?
Oh, well, we'll do that, not tonight, but we just want everybody to learn that song.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first part of it. And that song, this is called an entrance song. But where this song really gained, we'll say, prominence, is the Tlamash people, Tlamash Tlingit, from a place called Kutsnu. Today it's called Angoon. But Kutsnu, and what they call Salgo the humans from the north end of the island. Salgo Kwan was the name of one of our earliest villages. It was before the Ice Age, but it was called Lamai. Lamai is just a big camp. It wasn't a village. But anyway, for some reason, the Tlingit people from Kutsnu and the ones from Salkwan were always fighting. And they were really, it's a very long story, so I won't go into the whole story, but anyway, both sides were taking some pretty heavy losses. And so, after the last one out at a place called Gusku, Forster Island, the people of Salgo Kwan got together and they talked about how so many people were being hurt by this because of something somebody did, and somebody got mad and they couldn't let it go. So a representative, a delegation was sent to Kutsnu, led by a man named anyway.
Kalansoa.
My son, Kun Kwayan is the whale that makes a big splash. Kun Kwayan was my channel, but he wasn't the one. It was one of his relatives, maybe a couple generations before the Europeans showed up. And anyway, went and talked to them and said if they wanted to stop fighting and killing each other, to come and talk to us. And just south of Heidelberg is a small island. Today it's called Dago's Island. Dago was a man named Albert Natcom, and they called him that because the hat he wore was actually a French cap.
Chapeau.
But Italians were called Dagos, and they didn't have any name for French, so they used Dago for his nickname. But anyway, Dago's Island. And so when the Shamash tribe, the Tlingit people showed up, they went to that island. And all the rest of the people of the village were in the woods away from that small island because there was a sand spit that connected it when the tide was out. And so they talked, and finally, when the agreement was reached, they put hemlock branch on the fire and made lots of smoke. Hemlock is called hill, the needles, that's medicine. And that's when people smudge, they use that needles. When a man was getting ready to try to find his song, whatever, he'd make a shelter and he would line it with those hemlock branches. And when we go for herring roe, we'll cut small hemlock trees and sink them down. The herring will spawn on the branches. And when you go to eat them, you can also eat the needles. So anyway, that's what they did when they sent a signal up that agreement had been reached. And so it was dark, and the women came out of the woods, coming across that spit, singing this song. And the woman who we saw called ihlgiigaa, great common presence, were leading it, dancing this way. Hands up here as they came on the other with dancing with their hands this way. And the men were dancing just a little bit different as they came out. And one of the women had a very powerful voice. And so it's about a half a mile across the channel, maybe a little off. But her voice was so strong it would echo. And so for a long time when they'd sing this song, one woman would sing it with that echo. Sing an echo for it. So when it finally they got everybody together for a big feast, they were told that if any people stopped fighting among themselves or fighting with their neighbors, they could use this song to indicate that conflict has been dispelled. And I was at a place called Tyonek, near Anchorage, Alaska. I was there for a meeting with the Alaska Federation of Natives. And there was a man sitting over there at a chair, had a armrest on it. It was like a wooden rocking chair. And he was sitting there singing that. And I said, gee, you know that Haida song? He said, no, that's one of our songs. I said, no, that's a Haida song. That's that peace song that everybody could sing if you stop fighting. He said, I always wondered where it came from. So that's what this is. This is where we're dispelling conflict.
So after that, the Tlingit got the right to sing it too?
Anybody who stopped fighting.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't matter which nation you're from. It's a peace song. But see, the first part of it, Amiya, Amiya, that means get ready. It's something that you're alerting them. Kiasiat Kamilgam, Kiasiat Kamilgam. Something, I don't want to say strange, but something unusual is happening. Something, get ready, get ready. So there's usually one person, maybe two people will run in the room and they'll go around yelling this, getting everybody ready if they know. Then after that, then the song begins. That's when you're really something is frightening you or it's causing, we'll say it's causing a heightened sense of awareness that something is happening over which we have no control. We don't know what it is, so get ready. And so that's what they're saying. So by now everything is focused on, and then you hear the song begin, and they start coming into the room. But that's how they sing it from Heidelberg when they do this. When they use this song, they use that part, the first part of it. So the singers, primarily the drummers and the singers, will be the men. I guess you can sing it to yourself if you want, but I don't know why there's any reason why you couldn't sing it. Because I don't like to make rules that say you can't.
Is that the song that they sing when you're at the beginning of the dance, when the dance group comes in and they go, I always thought it was Hamiya that they were saying, and they ran in and they say Hamiya, and then the Hamiya comes in, real big hairy guy, and they say
That's a Gogit. That's a Gogit.
That's a Gogit song?
That's a Gogit.
The Gogit wild man.
That's at the beginning?
Yeah, part of that's one of the beginnings.
Yeah.
But the Gogit, like Robert Davidson, that's the most impressive one.
Yeah.
But
Because
this one is
Gogit comes in.
Amiya, Amiya is what this one is.
Yeah.
This is where you're alerting everybody that something strange is going to have take place, something out of the ordinary. So you can use that when something's happening in your house, that something's sort of out of control. Amiya, Amiya. I got to deal with it. I got to deal with it. Kind of like one of the other. One of the other things they use too at the very beginning is a personal call, Haksta, Haksta, Haksta. Haksta. That means, get ready, we're gonna go. Get ready, we're gonna go. And then this person will go and do this part of it. And then when they leave, then this begins. And when my grandfather did it, there were a lot of women dancing. It wasn't just a limited number. But the man who was dancing with a paddle, this clarinetist one was telling me about it, because she was the one that was really involved in passing the ceremony to me. But she said he almost killed himself dancing. He danced so hard for so long, because you really have to be aggressive with it, because you are the protector. You're providing, taking care of this person. So it's not just sort of, going through the motions. So in some ways, it's almost like when we do that victory dance, for the Dansley family. I mean, you're really into it. So instead of just kind of going on.
Cruising.
Yeah. So we're just taking it for a drive. TV, here I come. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, because I'm the meanest sucker in the valley. I've heard it said that way. But anyway, that whole mental attitude, at the very beginning of how you can view yourself, you're the very, very first man. And she's the very first woman. And everything is new. And so you're going to have to depend on each other. Because everybody has a strength, everybody has a weakness. And so if I feel a weakness, I can lean on this other person. But as the male, my responsibility is to face everything myself. But if I get to a point where I can't, I realize I'm going to fail because I just don't have enough horsepower, I can ask for assistance. And the way that was described to me by this Morris Peel, and I've told this before, but it's like this is a big windy point, big rock point, southeasters blowing, you got a storm blowing, winds coming in, rain, and everybody's behind the leader. And so in martial arts, you anchor yourself. So if you get hit this way, you can hold your balance no matter what happens, because you're anchored. So when that big wave comes, you face it, push it aside, and you check to make sure all your people are still with you. And so as you're doing that, another one comes and it's too big. You know what your limitations are? You let it roll over you, push it off, and check again. And so that man faces everything without thinking somebody's going to rescue me. One of the guys from home was highly decorated, the U.S. Marine Corps, from over in Korea. And he asked me if I remembered what the old ones said when they sent him off to war. I said, yeah, I remember. And he asked, well, what was it? And I says, ihlgiigaa. He said, that's it, I remember that. They were in a war over in Korea, and they were being overrun by Chinese troops. And it was winter time, very cold, and he said at some point he was knocked unconscious. And when he regained consciousness, there were only 2 of them from that unit that were still alive. The other one had not only been hit with rifle butts, but had been bayoneted too. So he was wounded. And so Nanja carried this guy in the wintertime for 9 days. The get back to their lines so the guy could get medical attention. Well, that's the only way they get back. And he said there were times when he just wanted to give up. And then he hears Chinah's voice. Good night, Klotska, good night, Klotska. Keep your mind strong. Never let the fear get in front of you. Keep your mind strong. It was sort of funny in a way when they got back. The two of them were separated. The other guy was unconscious when they got back there. So he didn't know how he'd gotten there until much later. And so he had assumed that he was the only survivor. And it was a few years later when somebody went and started digging into records and found out, you know, because this guy that was wounded wanted to find out who it was brought him in, and they found the records in there. And so he passed the word on, and they brought Nelson to the White House to give him the award and these medals for saving his buddy's life. But Udenai Klotska means don't ever give up. When you feel like you can't take another step, take another step. But don't give up, because that's what does most people in this, they give up. And so when you're doing this dance too, it's sort of like, I don't know how many of you read that thing that when a woman is born, she not only carries the eggs that is going to be her children, but also the ones that's going to be her grandchildren. So that newborn, unborn fetus is also carried for each generation. And so that's who you are. You're the carriers of our humanity. You're the carriers of our future. And the men, when they know that, we know we've got to protect this with our last breath. That's it. No more of this, I'm superior, I'm tough, I can push her around, I can do anything I want. That's not the way our world is. I've done a lot of reading, a lot of history, and I don't know how many millions of people have been killed in wars in Europe. And just recently, 2 or 3 days ago, there's a guy who's running for office in the Republican Party or whatever he is, was saying that without rape, humanity would have died out.
Wow.
I mean, this is a guy who's actually said this.
I heard it on the news last night.
And now, those are some pretty sick puppies that should be put down, because life isn't that way. They've made it that way. So they think they can hurt anybody they want anytime, as long as they're tougher, they're physically superior. But this dance says no. We're like these two hands that are in mittens now. We're helping each other. And we're dancing together. Thank you for making me heal and born a woman. Now it's complete. Our spirit says so too. So anyway, that's the short of it.
Aren't we overpopulated? Isn't the world overpopulated?
I think so, but I'm not going to be the first to volunteer to leave.
Like in 5 years, we won't have enough water in Vancouver because of how much we're growing as a population.
Well, we did a Save the Stein gathering at Mount Curry in 1989, I think it was. And there were 20,000 people there for that. And at the time, we were able to tell people that when this earthquake comes, Vancouver has enough food to be able to feed everybody for about 2 weeks. And after that, cannibalism, I don't know. But it's even worse now. We're down to about 5 days that we can survive without outside help for about 5 days. Water system will be gone. Ports will be down. The bridges will be down. Airport will sink below the ground because it's all landfill. Richmond will be sunk. So one of the things we were doing last year, Sandra was part of that talk, we were having these meetings with elders talking about how do you survive, what are we going to do when this earthquake comes, how do we keep track of each other, where do we go? And some of the recommendations were make sure you walk every day. Because there's not gonna be any taxis, there's not gonna be any DART, there's not gonna be buses, you're gonna have to walk. But where do you go? You go to community centers, because they have emergency supplies, they're supposed to. And also, with this tsunami that follows, you've got about 30 minutes to get to high ground somewhere away from the beach. So those are the things we were talking about in those meetings we were having last summer. But it was so hard to get people to keep coming back. So that's what this is really all about. It's not just to do some quaint ceremony, but this is really a celebration of who we are. In Tlingit, they had a ceremony called Hashabun. Hashabun, really, the way it was described to me, everything that we've been, everything that we are, and everything that we're going to become. And so again, that's that same thing about drawing a straight line to the highest values of the people. So that's where we're going. We hold to those values of we're going to trust each other, we're going to share with each other, we're going to help each other, and we're going to give back. Residential school, don't trust, they'll cheat you. Don't share, they'll end up with more than you. Don't help anybody because the only way to talk is look out for number one. And don't give back, you can never have too much. Some of you may have seen that commercial on TV, I want it now, I want it all. But that's not how it works. When we talk about giving back, it's not like I took somebody's hat and gave it back. When each people came into being, they were put on a land that looked like them. They were given a language that sounded like that land, describes the land, all the beings there, and were given ceremonies to maintain the balance that's in that land. And at the same time, this philosophy about walking on the edge of the knife. It said if you're not careful and you don't watch your step, you could fall off the world, which means that if you stop doing your ceremonies to maintain balance, you're going to fall into chaos, and that's what's happened to us. So now we're trying to get back to doing those ceremonies. So when I go hunting, I never name the animal I'm looking for, because if I do, saying to it, you have no say in this relationship. But if this animal, this deer presents itself, I either say, I accept the gift, take it, okay, no, I'm going to give this one back. I always give back the first one, even if I'm hungry. So that way if somebody else comes along after me, that's going to be something for them. So that's what we mean by giving back. We always give back something before we take it. And then I think right now my voice is tired, and I think it's time to sing. Not sin, sing. So, does anybody have any questions?
How long has it been since the ceremony is, well, I know we did a couple of years ago, but you were saying before that, it was about 50 years or something?
1940.
1940?
And so we did in 2015, so that's 4 years ago. So,
Yeah.
60, 75 years. So it was 75 years from when my grandfather did it till they did it. So, anyway, so this is the song, and our songster is here. Your accompaniment, come on, Sinead. Come on, I won't break your fingers. Sit with him.
Good evening, brothers and sisters, children, elders. My name's Kelly Spence. I'm from Haida Language, from Masset, Old Masset. Just here to teach the entrance song, if you guys have it in front of you. If you don't have one, I have extras up here.
We can make more copies.
Yeah. And, yeah, I've been, down here about 5 years now in Vancouver, and, I've always been wanting to be a part of something, and, belonging. So that's why I'm getting back into my culture, and, to get back into it, you gotta learn it, and you gotta teach it, and that's a good way to you know, get out there and just be a part of something, and that's what I want to do, and I want to pass it on to my children. It's my daughter Shanika, and just here to, like I said, I'm here to help out with the song that we have here in front of you. So I noticed there's a minor mistake in there. I had to clarify it with Roger, but as it says right here, it's like hey, hey,
That's what I use.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like that. This part, the second part right here is out. Second verse. Second line, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, I made the mistake.
I'm singing it both ways though too. I hate. I'm singing it both ways.
So just make
That's
that
how my money's
correction
singing.
on your paper.
That's how my mom was saying. Yeah. And then there was, my generation changed it. Sit down.
I got both from here. Your version.
This
This is the one we did last year. This is the one we got from
I think I got it right here. Okay, y'all ready? I think I got it all right here. It's like, starts off with, hey, want to hear you all say that? Say it like, hey, I want to hear you guys. Come on. All at the same time.
Just in one.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. That was good. I like that. But yeah, that's the first part. And then there's the second part. It's like, hey. So we'll try that. Okay, try it again. We'll start from the beginning. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. That was good. Didn't even have to use the beat. Okay, well, we'll do it with the beat this time. I'll count to 3 and then we'll start, and I'll start the beat. Okay, 1, 2, we'll just do the first part again. You're here, you're here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That was good. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Over here, the second verse. Okay, we'll do it without the beat. We'll start from the beginning, and then we'll do the second one again, or the second one, sorry. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's a little off. That's off.
See, one is correct and the other one isn't.
There is 2 different versions, but he didn't write it out right. He's missed out the second part of the first verse, or second verse. Phonetically. How do they say it again? Are you? Ryan? No.
Great. Okay. So we have this is what we got the first class. And then second class, that whole second AAY.
It's a good thing though, right?
Sure, and then you can go correct the next one.
It's okay, we're gonna take a look at this one. You got it already. So you just scratch this out and sing this one, this line twice. Scratch that out, say that twice.
Okay.
Scratch that out, say that twice.
Okay.
Okay, so same thing again. Scratch this whole line out. Say that word twice. Okay, and repeat that. You got a pen and we can do that over here.
Good job, big guy. Just write it above. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because this is IU, right? IU.
I grew up with it this way, the way it's here.
Uh-huh.
But the groups nowadays say I.
Oh.
I don't like that way. Yo.
So if this is, does this mean he gets a cut? These canisters?
I don't know if that's him.
It's his name, right?
It's his name, but I don't know if it's that true. Yeah, I seen that last week too.
It just bugs me. I want to tape it up or something. Color it in. It's kind of ironic. We gotta look at that name word beside it.
A line. Fruto.
Fruto, yeah.
Yo.
That's good. I
Sit down. You wait for me.
Here's the new version. That should be how it should be on your sheet.
ihlgiigaa or AI?
It should be on there too. So it goes, starts off, it goes like this. Ah, hey, yeah, ooh, 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 hey, yeah, ooh, ooh, hey. Then you do it again. You start over from the beginning. You do 4 times, I guess. So that usually is for when you're singing the songs, I guess, do it 4 times. But yeah, this is a new version, but that's just oh, I think it should be stuff. I don't think it's that. But we'll do it together again. We'll start from the beginning. Okay, we'll do it without the beat. Okay, we'll do it on 3, so we'll start from the beginning. We'll go right to the end here. So okay, 1, 2, 3. Sounds right? Sounds that's how we sing it. So pretty sure that's right way now. So if you guys want to pick up your drums, whoever has a drum, we'll try to do the drumming together and the singing together. Okay, we'll do it on 3 again. So 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I got lost there. But that was good. So that's how we do it. Do 4 times. The whole thing.
Okay, 4 times.
Yeah. So we'll do it 4 times. We'll do a practice run right now, 4 times from the beginning. We'll get Jay to come up and lead you on this one. Jay.
Come on, guys. He said Jay, not Roger.
It's Roger. Roger. Oh, sorry, Raja. Right.
Here we got no R in
We'll say that Jay here is leading everybody in, so he's going to be the one that's leading the song. So take her away.
look at it. No.
I think that's kind of maxed out. Some of the practice lying down on the floor.
No.
Need more bass and like wood.
See, when we do the ceremony, this thing will go more than 4. We keep singing.
Yeah, we can
home.
do more than 4, yeah.
So until all the dancers are in, but now, you know, practicing,
Yeah.
do it the proper way.
Yeah. That's, when we have all the drummers and the singers, I guess we'll have them all in front, right, leading the dancers in.
Is it the men that come in first? Is it the men that come in first?
What we do when we have
Do
our,
the men come in first?
have our performances, we have a dance group, part of the dance group, and Jay and Roger are part of that dance group, and if anybody else is interested in come check it out on Sundays, is that the Bill Reid Art Gallery this Sunday, Roger, or?
I don't know. Everybody's pretty busy.
Yeah,
See, the way we'll do it for the ceremony though, all the men will be lined up here with their drums. And then we start singing that coming in song is when, for the women to come in.
Could we do a practice of that?
Oh, yeah.
We'll practice of it, yeah.
Like,
I've got diagrams for the whole thing, I didn't bring them with me, I left my other bag and I had some songbook in there and stuff, I usually carry it with me, but my purse was too heavy. So I'll bring that in, those diagrams, as to how it's all supposed to go. But
So the men
ordinarily
line
it would
up
be
and then
that
the
way.
women just dance? Is that
Huh?
is that what you're saying? The men line up on the side and sing, and then the women,
Yeah, see, all the
Dance.
men will be here, all the men and their drums.
yeah.
And the woman will come through that door and they'll dance this way, coming into the room. And one from the end of the line will move over to dance with the woman. Then when he goes back, then the next one moves over and so on. So each one of them will have their own, each one will be a new dancer and a new person accompanying until everybody's in and all 13 have danced.
And so where is the paddle?
I've got it. I got 2 different ones. One is, it's called ihlgiigaa. It stands in front and leads, and it's got horsehair on it, black and white. And I've got another one though that's made of yew wood, that's just a regular paddle. So, I think I want to use that other one with the hair thing on it, because, I don't know, it seems to fit a little bit better. Back to you.
why not?
So, any of you women wanna do a dance, if you want to do a practice run, get all the guys up here to, if you have a drum, bring your drums up and your voices. And all the women go back there for the dancing,
I
please.
don't have a paddle here I didn't bring one. So it's okay.
Just pretend to have, you have one.
Hey, just use a pen for your paddle.
Yeah.
Little paddle right there. Just kidding.
Use the gun.
Just gonna say.
So could I have all the ladies go in the back there, please? All the ladies that, yeah.
We don't have to sing? Should we bring our words?
Right.
You can do the leader.
You won't come stand with that.
Yeah, that's good. He wants you to walk. That one.
Are you ready?
Good? Okay. Guys ready? Okay. 1,
That's just when it's all complete.
It's all complete.
But that's how.
See, when I copied this off the original sheet, I made some mistakes and I went back to it and I written it, but I didn't get rid of the ones I made a mistake on, I just printed some other ones.
Ladies, want to do another run? Ladies, you guys want to do one more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go down here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just until you're in line, but if you want to dance with your hands on your, you have to, I mean, really be proud so you're looking at the world this way, rather than putting your head down. So you're the first one. No, we're not gonna go around in circles, just we go in a straight line. Oh, just straight down, just so you're lined up. But you can do it either way, you know, if you're more comfortable dancing this way.
I like the ones that are
And see, when I call out "Shafla," that means come out and dance.
Okay, so you wait till last.
He'll stop for 2, and then on the third one, he goes again.
Please.
You gonna leave?
You have a drum, Allison? No? You wanna make one?
At home.
We'll do that later.
If anybody wants to use my drum, they can.
ihlgiigaa. Get ready. Yasta. See, each one of you found your own special place. And so when you get to that place, you'll still just, you can either keep dancing where you are because you're in your own special place now. And the others still have to find theirs.
Also, we might not end up in a line, we might end
No,
up
you
all
won't. It's
over.
wherever you find is your spot. You only you know where your special place is. And this is part of the man's responsibility is, that's your business, it's none of our business. We don't ask questions, it's your business.
Good job, ladies. Now we're gonna do a fast one.
You might even get somebody to yodel.
Hey, big guy. Hasta mata.
Are you guys happy with that? Comfortable with that? The entrance song? Know the dance, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Thanks. Yeah, that was fun. How?
Oh, you bruised my good hat. Oh, my goodness. I'm gonna have to get a hat like yours. I like your hat.
He's just matching.
They call that a peanut shell.
Oh, I have one of those.
One more story.
Huh?
One more story.
One more story?
Yeah.
We're already 4 stories high. I'm ready to go. You know, my dad, he had a knack for doing things that kind of kept everybody on their toes, I'll put it that way. We were fishing off the edge of the Gulf of Alaska, a place called Noyes Island. We had some big swells. And the boat was rolling, so we were hauling gear. And Dad walked along the deck, and he slipped and he fell down. And he lay there, I thought he was knocked unconscious. And he was laying there, and this Frank Natcombe Jr. we call Hammy, he said, "Get his whiskey!" Boy, Dad looked. When I was going to school at Haskell Institute, we had a big dining hall, and it was one of the days kind of mixed rain and snow and sweat out there. And one of the guys from Montana, they called him Tortoise. I forget what his name was. But anyway, he was sitting there, facing this way, and it was toward the line where the people were coming from their prayers. And this one girl was really kind of walking kind of like this. And she knew all the guys were watching her. She was walking real fast and she slipped and fell down. And you can see she didn't get hurt, but she had a pastry, I think it was, that was on the tray. And when she fell, it went way up. And then when she fell down, it landed on her, right about here on her. And she was laying there like she was unconscious. And Tortoise saw her eye peek at it. He didn't say anything, he reached down, he took that pastry and he got some butter and he was buttering it. He was sitting there opening, eating it. She said, give me that. So sometimes people play possum, but he made sure she wasn't hurt before he did. So, you know, people might misunderstand our humor. Our humor doesn't have barbs in it. Yes, if somebody's really hurt, sometimes they'll make fun of you so you don't feel bad for yourself. Self-pity is not a spectator sport. When we were working on White Fang 2, I pulled this tendon. I guess it's called the Achilles tendon. Gee, that was painful. So I was on crutches. And we went to the set, and I was on crutches, and Charles Natcom, he saw me and he stood there looking at me, and I said, what? What are you doing with those sympathy sticks? I was really being wounded too. But they don't let you feel sorry for yourself. They always find something to get your head out of your misery. So that's something that I'd like to see people start learning to do again, is to have some fun with things. Because even what this old woman at home said, life is too important to be taken seriously. It says, go into life lightly, but don't take it lightly. You know, be lighthearted, but don't take it lightly. Be crazy, but don't get weird.
Well, our next class is Sunday, 10 a.m., the 18th, 2 days from now.
Just make sure I remember.
Sunday, August 18th.
Want us to bring or do something special before the next class?
10 a.m.
Huh? You want us to do bring something special for next class?
Bake the cake. Yeah, that would be good.
See, and you know, if we use our alphabet, you would never say 10 a.m. You'd say 10
Okay, 10 a.m.
Haida.